Welcome to the No Decision Podcast. I am your host, Wes, and my co-host is the same guy that I have with me on Run It Back Podcast. It is Joy. Joy, how are you tonight?
I am doing great, Wes. How are you?
I am excited to start this new chapter of our podcasting careers
Mm.
with putting out the boxing portions of our podcast into a brand new show. So, for those listening, we used to have a segment called Check Hooks in our Wes and Joy Show Run It Back podcast, but now we've decided to rebrand and call it the No Decision Podcast, having it as a standalone for our true to form fight fans.
Right.
So, Joy, are you ready to make some rounds with me tonight?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's go.
All right, round one. Errol Spence versus Danny Garcia. So Errol Spence won a convincing unanimous decision on Saturday night, this past Saturday night at AT&T Stadium over Danny Garcia, who is by no means a terrible fighter. He is so good.
Right.
Very good counterpuncher. But like I said in previous podcasts, Errol Spence to me is probably the most balanced boxer in the game today,
Mm.
especially at the welterweight division. And there were so many question marks going into that fight, such as the car accident, where's his focus at? Has the pandemic perhaps changed him? And the answer is no, no, and no. He seemed to be in top shape,
Mm.
top form, and he damn near pitched a shutout on his first fight back.
Absolutely.
And this is not a tune up.
Right.
Even by
Absolutely.
his standards, it
It
wasn't a
is
tune
not.
up.
Right.
And for him to do that, it goes to show how great he is.
Mm.
And what did you think about that fight, Joy?
Yeah. Absolutely. And yeah, I also want to preface that I thought Errol Spence was gonna win. I did say that I secretly wanted Danny Garcia to win because it would throw a little bit more of a pretzel into the welterweight division, but man, this is the first time I was really able to see Errol Spence against a really good fighter, a fighter that I thought could really just weather the punches, but he backed up Danny Garcia a lot into the ropes, which I didn't really see a lot, even against Keith Thurman. So yeah, I'm very impressed with Errol Spence, and even after the fight, Errol Spence wasn't really happy with his performance, and he kind of rated himself a B minus, which I mean, if that's a B minus, bring it on. I want to see the A plus. I want to see it. Maybe against future fights. So we'll see.
For him to say such a thing, that goes to show how mindful he is of
Right.
pursuing perfection
Absolutely.
in the game. And he knows that he's still a work in progress.
Mm.
But so far, Errol Spence 2.0 looks very, very good.
Mm.
And you did say going into the future. So let's talk about it. So for those watching that fight, and for those who don't know, one of his future foes, potential future foes rather, was sitting in the crowd at AT&T Stadium, and that happens to be Terrence Bud Crawford. Now, both men have been on record saying that they want to fight each other.
Mm.
Do you think it happens, Joy?
I do think it happens. It tends to be, when we want these massive fights, right? Like two of the best, perhaps even for the pound for pound. Um, we will get these fights eventually. Maybe it may not be at the perfect timing, but we will get these fights. I hope it is the next fight. The next fight is Terrence Bud Crawford. And yeah, that is the fight that I want to see. These two are, in my eyes, probably the most complete boxers that I've seen. So yeah, I'm ready. Bring it on.
More or most complete. That is a very interesting line that you're taking there, Joy.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, right. I think I haven't really seen that good of a boxer in a southpaw. Like not as a boxer, but Pacquiao is a boxer puncher. He could brawl, but man, like Errol was just moving. He was just sticking. He was jabbing. His jab was pretty much the key in the fight. I love the way he moved. I love the way he was able to kind of guide and really kind of force Danny Garcia to the ropes, to corners, to places where Danny Garcia wasn't really comfortable with, to places where Danny Garcia pretty much started to really rely on his power and his counter punching. You know, you can't really counter punch something that you can't catch. So, yeah, a brilliant game plan by Spence. I think that was probably one thing that impressed me the most. I thought he was more of a brawler, but I think I'm more impressed now.
Absolutely. And that now kind of backs up what I've thought of him as a balanced fighter, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought, defense wasn't gonna be his strong suit, but I mean, he's proven me wrong. I thought, Danny really struggled to land cleanly, especially that right hand. I was looking for that right hand of Danny Garcia to land pretty square, but it's just a couple of grazes here and there.
Oh yeah, for sure. But yeah, now we seem to be on a crash course for the balanced fighter against the two stanced, the ambidextrous fighter.
Hmm.
So hopefully that comes into fruition sometime in 2021. However, we do realize that as boxing fans, we can't be choosers. Unfortunately, we're not always going to get what we want.
Hmm.
And a name that both men have been putting in their mouths is our pride and joy. And that man is Manny
Manny
Pacquiao.
Pacquiao. Yep.
Now, do you think it's worth so speaking of it from a lens of Manny Pacquiao, because we all know who Manny Pacquiao is, everyone knows who Manny Pacquiao is, everyone knows what his resume is.
Hmm.
Do you think it's worth Manny Pacquiao's time to fight either Errol Spence Jr. or Terrence Bud Crawford?
Um, in my personal opinion, no. I don't think it's worth his time. I do think that Pacquiao might have a better chance of fighting guys like maybe Sean Porter, maybe even a Danny Garcia. But Errol Spence and Terrence Bud Crawford, they seem like they're in the top of their game. They're in their prime. Um, you know, I think it's also time for Pacquiao to kind of let the new generation step in the welterweight division. And I think he's hinted this, in the past. He knows that he's not, the young fighter that still had the world to prove. I think he's proven enough, and I think now for him, Pacquiao is more about, well, he still feels good. He still feels like he's strong enough, and he's just trying to milk every single ounce of boxing he has. I still think he has a lot to offer in boxing, but I think yeah, I think he knows as well, because he is also an avid boxing fan. I think he knows that people want to see more of Spence versus Crawford. So I think him as a boxing fan, he'd love to see that as well. So yeah.
To piggyback off of your point, he could beat a hell of a lot of guys too still at
Yeah,
that age.
absolutely.
Let's not forget about that.
Right.
But yes, I am in agreement that it's probably not worth his time fighting either one of those two, especially when the demand is more on Crawford and Spence fighting each other
Right.
rather than one of them fighting him.
Mm.
Now, it kind of is just weird because he's still a major world champion.
Right.
So it makes you wonder. It makes you wonder how either one of those guys is going to be undisputed without going through Manny Pacquiao, right?
Right.
But it is what it is. If I'm Manny, I would probably go for a swan song, or even just call it a career in the professional ranks and then just have fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like if Floyd can go out there and have fun, who we will talk about later tonight, why can't he have fun?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and like I said, Pacquiao has always struck me as a guy who just loves boxing, just in general. He's very avid. He's a avid boxing historian. He loves boxing history, and I think part of it is him being a fan of boxing and witnessing, watching boxing fights, and so I think he'll enjoy. Kind of just stepping back and watching these the young guys that he's inspired throughout his career. So yeah, I mean, for me, you know, I mean, who am I to Manny Pacquiao? But yeah, I think it's quite poetic when Pacquiao understands and knows that boxing fans really need this fight between Spence and Bud, and so I think it's quite poetic to see like the older generation, the guy who doesn't really have to prove anything anymore, to let the young guys fight a little bit more.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Hmm.
I mean, granted, I don't think the division depends on Manny Pacquiao's opinion,
Right.
but for what it's worth, he's not fully in control on whether that contract gets signed or not
Right.
between Terrence Bud Crawford
Hmm.
and Errol Spence Jr. It's
Right.
up to the two men themselves and their promoters.
Right. Their
So the business aspect
promoters
of it.
is like a
So,
really key word in
oh, absolutely, 100%.
there.
Especially when one guy is on PBC and the other guy's on Top Rank.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, I mean, who knows? Like the shade being thrown at Top Rank. We'll see.
But yeah, we'll see for
We'll
sure.
see.
But we will leave it on that note. So congratulations to Errol Spence
Yeah.
on
Congrats.
retaining his
Yep.
titles.
And I can't wait to see the next Danny Garcia fight.
Sure.
Yeah.
Shouts to him for taking it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And for Terrence Bud Crawford, you and I think Errol Spence have a lot of working to do
Mm.
in terms of pleasing the fans and progressing the sport
Right.
to
Absolutely.
from a competition standpoint at least. But we'll leave it there. Let's go to round two. It is fight week. So again, as we're recording this, it is Friday night in the United States. So tomorrow afternoon, Saturday afternoon, or Saturday night in the UK, we will have Anthony Joshua, so the reigning heavyweight champ, against Kubrat Pulev from Bulgaria.
Mm.
Championship fight, heavyweight division, 12 rounds, SSE Arena in London, England. 2 p.m. Eastern time here in the United States. So that's 1 p.m. Central for any of my Midwesterners, Chicagoans listening to us tonight
Mm.
on our debut episode of the No Decision podcast. And it's good. It's the first time we've seen Joshua since his unanimous decision win over Andy Ruiz.
Right.
And Pulev is a veteran in the division. He is 39 years old.
Mm.
Pretty good record, has fought a handful of names, such as the Klitschko's. He's fought Huey Fury.
Mm.
He's fought Chisora, I believe, as well. So he's no slouch.
Right.
And Joy, I want to get your thoughts on this upcoming matchup for AJ.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot is riding on this fight, right, for AJ. We once thought that Anthony Joshua was pretty bulletproof. And a fight against Andy Ruiz kind of turned that around, but I think for the better. I think now he's a much better boxer. It will be interesting though to see how Pulev kind of attacks Joshua. Right? Is he gonna go after him? Is he gonna try to rush him just the way Andy Ruiz did? And we know, Joshua has pride. He will stand in there, and if he has to, he will fight fire with fire. May not be in his best interest, but we will see. He does seem a little bit faster, a little bit more athletic than Pulev. So, from just a couple of fights that I saw with Pulev. But yeah, we will see. A lot is riding on this for Joshua. Potential, future massive future fights for Joshua. So yeah, I think he will impress. So yeah, I think we'll see. We'll see the adjustments that Joshua has made. We'll see how he reacts to Pulev's game plan. But yeah, I'm excited.
Absolutely. And I do want to note that I think for this version of AJ, pressuring is not going to do anything.
Absolutely not.
We saw Andy Ruiz try and do it the second time.
Hmm.
What happened? He got embarrassed.
Right.
Damn near looked like a nobody out there when they did the Clash in the Dunes.
Ooh. Okay.
Oh, come on, Joy.
I mean, yeah, okay. I mean, styles makes fights, right?
Exactly.
Right, right. Mm-hmm.
If you're in the school of thought of the sweet science, so like the Floyds and I guess the Spences and the Pernell Whitakers,
Mm.
there's a big difference between boxing and fighting.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Andy Ruiz Jr. is a fighter,
He's a fighter. He's a fighter.
and then AJ in that Clash of the Dunes fight was a boxer.
Right.
He moved around.
Mm.
He went to spots where Andy Ruiz couldn't go to.
Right. He uses
Right.
reach.
Exactly. He uses reach, uses athleticism, and then he couldn't keep up. And then when Ruiz in that last round wanted him to step into the middle of the ring in exchange, you think this guy's an idiot? Like, no. Like, I mean, why do you think Floyd doesn't do that? And as a result, he's what, 50 something and 0?
50-0.
50 and 50 even.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I've always compared the AJ versus Ruiz 2 fight as Duran and Sugar Ray.
Mm.
It's just that this time nobody quit. So, for me, if AJ can take that learning experience, build upon that, and use that athleticism, use the ring, have generalship against Pulev, he should be okay. And that leads into my prediction. I think AJ takes him out in 10.
Oh, okay. Okay, interesting.
And of course, when you face a guy who talks a lot of shit like Pulev, then you kind of want to shut him down.
Right. Right.
Of course, if you're becoming more of a boxer, you want to beat him to a pulp, then shut him down. But for me, you still got to finish the job.
Absolutely.
Because there's a lot at stake, like you said earlier.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think Joshua is going to win this fight. I don't think it's going to be a knockout. I do think it might be going to a decision, a unanimous one. I do think that Joshua, ever since, that second fight, he started using the ring a little bit more. He started moving around the ring. He's using his length a lot better. He's cutting off the ring a lot better as well. And yeah, so I think overall, just by using that space around him, he's a much better defensive fighter. I do think that Joshua still needs to work a little bit more on his jab. A lot of boxers, obviously, like what we, kind of discussed on was like there are boxers and there are fighters, right? And yeah, I think Joshua still needs. There's still a lot more stuff that Joshua needs to fine tune. I don't think he's, a very fast fighter. He's very strong. And yeah, usually fighters that are fast usually tend to be the better boxers. And fighters who are strong tend to be better fighters, if that makes any sense. But yeah, or brawlers. I'm glad that Joshua is kind of, taking a lot of the sweet science, right, of pretty much learning how to make your opponent miss, learning how to use your space around you to create opportunities for yourself, but also take away opportunities from your opponent. I'm really excited to see if he can be a little bit better of a counterpuncher. Joshua always went from at least when I saw him against Andy Ruiz from the first two fights, he tries to beat Andy Ruiz to the punch, and that has worked out well for him during his career. But yeah, even more so in the second fight. You know, if you are able to if he's able to beat you to the punch, you're not gonna last a long time in that ring with him. But I do think he's gonna try to use a little bit more of his ring generalship now, his newfound ring generalship. I do think he's gonna use a lot more of the ring. You're gonna see him move a little bit more. I don't think Pulev is gonna rush Joshua like Andy Ruiz. I think he's gonna be a little bit more calculated. So that's why I think there's gonna be a good fight. It could be a chess match. I think so. Perhaps a decision. I think I'm leaning towards a decision, maybe a unanimous.
For sure, it'll be really interesting to also see conditioning.
Absolutely.
So I can totally understand the decision prediction, but once again, Joshua versus Pulev. So for our American listeners, that fight will take place tomorrow, December 12th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, so 1 p.m. Central, noon time Pacific on the Zone.
Mm.
Heavyweight fight, SSE Arena in London, England. All right, round 3. We talked about Floyd a couple times in the earlier rounds, but now this round is all about him. February 2021, Floyd Mayweather versus Logan Paul. I'm going to take a round off here and let you talk about this, Joy.
Oh man, I mean, this might be the easiest fight Mayweather has ever had in his entire career. I've spoken about this in the last podcast. I can't even tell. It doesn't really matter which Paul he's gonna fight. Jake Paul, Logan Paul. I don't fucking care. Fucking yeah, I really don't fucking care. But yeah, like I mean, because I have seen Logan Paul fight in against KSI, another YouTuber. He does, like his brother Jake Paul, punch very wide. You can see the punch coming because they tend to roll their shoulders. So you could, that means, you know, you're punching very wide, and you could pretty much see the punch coming, even just by the swing of their hips. And so, I mean, come on, like, really, like, you think Mayweather is gonna fall for that? I do think that it's gonna be interesting, right? Logan Paul, I think, is 200 something pounds, and Mayweather, the heaviest I've ever seen him, is a 160. So this might be interesting if Logan Paul knows how to use his weight and kind of lean on Mayweather. I doubt it though. Mayweather is notorious for pot shots, which is pretty much, you know, the sneakiest kind of punches that you don't expect. And Mayweather is actually pretty good in close quarters and inside fighting. So, I mean, we'll see, right? But I do think that Mayweather, this is gonna be an easy fight for him. You know, Mayweather is a veteran. He knows how to take rounds off. He knows when to take rounds off. He knows when to press on the gas. I think you're gonna see a very similar situation where when McGregor kind of, you know, punched himself out, got exhausted. He wasn't really used to the boxing rounds, and you know, the pretty much 12 rounds of boxing. He wasn't really used to it. So I don't think Logan or either Jake, I'm not either one. I don't think they're conditioned to fight 12 rounds. If it's like a 3-minute match, 3-minute rounds for 12 rounds, I don't think they're gonna last a long time. It could be for pure exhaustion. I mean, Mayweather is already hard to hit. He's perfected the Philly shell with the shoulder roll. So I mean, good luck to Logan Paul, but I don't think he's gonna he's gonna pose much threat to Mayweather.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. For me, I don't think that fight is going to be 12 rounds. I
I
don't
don't think so.
think.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
It'll be like when he fought the Japanese kid, cage fighter.
Right, absolutely.
It'll be like 4-3,
I'm thinking
something like
I'm
that.
thinking 5-6.
Or 5-6. Okay, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure Jake, Logan Paul would like that too because they're just overzealous people to the point where they are seriously convinced that they can be world title fighters.
I
Now, don't
mean,
get me wrong; they know a thing or two about combat sports. They were both wrestlers,
right,
but
absolutely. But
for both of them to go out and say that, I can be a world title fighter, and for Jake Paul to go on Akin Barak and say I'm better than Logan, it's like, yeah, you, I'm not. I don't know. I'm confused, and it makes me wonder what the hell is going on with boxing because I thought boxing was starting to close the gap on UFC, but when you have things like this
yeah, it doesn't
and the
look
fight
good.
from 2 weekends ago, the Triller fight with Mike and Roy Jones, and then Snoop Dogg decides to go have a exhibition league.
And De
You
La Hoya is coming out of retirement,
allegedly,
allegedly,
allegedly, we don't want to get in trouble
against
for doing
Maidana.
that, for saying so. We don't. Um, but I don't know. What do you think is the current state of boxing
Mm,
with all these exhibition fights and people saying that they want to get out and fight again, even though they've retired almost a decade ago?
all right.
And then you got YouTubers who are controversial, thinking that they can be world champions and can beat already established combatants like Conor McGregor and Dylan Dennis and Ben Askren. Like,
Well, okay,
what?
okay.
Go ahead.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the first time either one of the Paul brothers are actually gonna fight a professional boxer.
Well, their fight or Logan's fight with KSI or
Well,
both of their yeah, I think
they were
either one
professional, but
they were considered professional.
KSI isn't a, he wasn't, he wasn't at the gym like, I mean, he wasn't like a boxer. Like he started off boxing at age 6.
No,
No,
either
yeah.
one of them. I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think so. But like, so this is the first time they are gonna, either one of them is gonna face a pure boxer. It's pretty much one of the best like of all time. And so yeah, I mean, I thought Mayweather took Canelo to school. I think this is gonna be preschool for Mayweather. I think he's gonna really show. I don't think Logan's gonna land a single punch.
You think he's gonna go airborne like the Japanese guy?
Okay, I don't know about that. But yeah, I I'm willing to predict how many punches Logan will land against Mayweather. I don't think it's gonna be a lot. I don't think it's gonna be north of 15. I really doubt it. I think the punch that you could catch Mayweather with is like a left jab. But to answer your question, I think Dana White said this right. Like, the state of boxing, unfortunately, is this sad place where legends have to kind of come out of retirement to fight each other, and YouTubers challenging these legendary boxers as well. Yeah, it doesn't really put a good image to our sport. Yes, it's great to see these legends step out of retirement and kind of go back to their roots, go back to what they love doing. But it does seem as though like the boxing is in need of superstars. And fortunately, I do think that there are young superstars and young growing superstars, up and coming superstars in boxing. It's just we just haven't hit on their primes yet. So I think give it some while, give it some time. You know, unfortunately, Canelo seems to be like the undisputed pound for pound for me. He doesn't seem to have a lot of competition vying for that position. So I do think it is a little bit more. It seems as though like boxing is in lack of talent right now, but I can assure everyone like if you really pay attention to some of these boxers, they are quite talented and they are rising superstars in the sport of boxing. So it is sad, but I think we're on our way to get better. There are some superstars that I really like, and I can't wait to watch them grow.
Is there a timetable in your head on where you think boxing will turn the corner and close the gap or surpass UFC?
I don't know about surpass UFC. I think UFC right now is kind of the king of combat sports. I do think that maybe boxing will start rising again. Maybe in 5 years. And I hope that by the time boxing rises again, we could take advantage of it because this is the first time in a long while where boxing is free on ESPN, and so yeah, I'm quite jealous. Because when I was a kid, so a lot of these fights were pay per view. A lot of them you couldn't even watch, so because they weren't allowed in TV. So yeah, you pretty much had to pay for them. But yeah, I do think that boxing is on the rise. I think they do have some superstars that are ready to take the challenge. I think there are some superstars that are over glorified, but I don't think that should take away. There's always been over glorified boxing stars in the past, and yeah, it seems as though the main attraction at the very moment seems to be in the lightweights. There's still, we talked about it. The biggest fight everyone wants to see is Spence versus Crawford, which is in the welterweight, and pretty much I think the money making division right now is the heavyweights, right? So the heavyweights are back. The biggest names in heavyweights. I can't wait until for Anthony Joshua. All this drama that Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury. I don't know. For me, like it seems as though boxing is doing okay. Boxing is doing okay. I think we're gonna grow. We're gonna grow a little bit bigger in the future, and yeah.
There you have it, folks. That's a very optimistic view from my co-contributor, Joy. So we're near the end of our first episode of No Decision. Just a quick wrap up. So we got Spence and Crawford hopefully in the near future. Of course, Manny Pacquiao still somewhat in the hunt. We got Anthony Joshua overcoming Kubrat Pulev. Very interesting takes on the Mayweather Paul fight. And there is another fight going on this weekend, and that's during the nightcap here in the United States on ESPN, free. So, Joy, free ESPN. The gift keeps on giving.
Hey.
A junior lightweight matchup: Shakur Stevenson versus Toka Khan Clary. Shakur Stevenson is an up-and-coming featherweight, lightweight fighter here. Olympian, silver medalist, has a bit of swagger to himself, a lot of charisma to this guy, and he could be the future of that division.
Absolutely.
But he fights a solid guy in Toka Khan Clary. I believe his record's 28-2, and I think Shakur Stevenson is 14-0.
Right. I mean,
so
yeah,
young guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, this is what I love about sports, just in general. But maybe even more so in boxing, right? You could talk all the talk, and you can make all the predictions, but the thing that's beautiful about boxing is, you're gonna find out soon enough, right? it's you're making predictions because it's on the next weekend. It's in the next day. And that's what I love about boxing. You will know the truth very soon. And you and I have experienced the truth when discussing Lomachenko, Teofimo Lopez. I have, faced the truth again when I watched Danny Garcia and Errol Spence. So, this is what I love about boxing.
Literally,
Yeah,
literally, Errol Spence's nickname is the
the
truth.
truth. But yeah, this is what I love, and yeah, before then, I've only watched highlights of Errol Spence, and I've only the only first fight I've watched from first round to the 12th is Errol Spence versus um, Sean Porter, and from then I still didn't even know a lot of Errol Spence, but now I do have a little bit more uh, of an idea of who he is and how far he can take his talents. And so that's what I love about boxing, right? Like we're still learning, and I love these fighters these boxers. They sacrifice so much, and I know because I could never make the sacrifices they make.
Yeah, not too many people can.
Right.
So, but then again, those that do, they're there for our entertainment,
Absolutely.
and then
Absolutely.
it creates armchair analysts like us. But
Absolutely.
once again, Stevenson versus Clary, ESPN. Coverage starts at 10 p.m. Eastern, and that is a free fight. You don't have to pay for it as long as you have the ESPN on your TV or even on the Watch ESPN app. And that wraps up our show for No Decision Podcast. Joy, we made the distance. Thank you for your contributions to tonight.
Oh, thank you. Oh my goodness, I made it to distance, unlike Logan Paul in the upcoming fight. But yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me in the No Decision episode 1.
My pleasure. And we will be back again next week to
Cover the
recap
Joshua.
the AJ Pulev fight, as
Absolutely.
well as cover any hot news that goes around in the squared circle.
Mm.
Once again, this is No Decision Podcast. I am your host, Wes Ibarra. For Joy Villapando, have a great night.
Have a great night, guys. Thank you.